In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this metal step. Now, you're probably wondering why I went to such great lengths to make this, where I could have just used a bit of wood, because really all it's doing is supporting the floor above and protecting the cables that run underneath. And the reason is quite straightforward. It's the first thing you see when you open the door. It's the very first impression you get of the van, and considering all the effort I'm going to make everything as bespoke and perfect as I want it to be, I don't want to be let down by a really mediocre entrance. To kick things off, I grabbed an old shoebox and used it as a makeshift template for the step I wanted to extend. I carefully traced the angle of the floor onto the cardboard to create a guide for where I needed to make cuts and folds. This step is crucial because getting the template just right sets the foundation for the entire project. Precision here ensures that everything aligns perfectly later on. Now onto the metal. Once ready, I transferred the template onto a sheet of 2.5mm mild steel. 1mm steel would have sufficed, but I worked with what I had on hand. For cutting sheet metal, my usual go-to is an angle grinder, but for this particular project I opted for a nibbler. It's the perfect tool when you're dealing with curves, making the process much more smooth. Next, I used a 6mm grinding disc to create a 1.25mm groove in the metal. This clever trick allowed me to bend it without needing a dedicated sheet metal bender. Remember, it's crucial to create all these grooves before you start bending, as trying to do it afterwards is quite a challenge. Off camera, I prepped the metal, ensuring it was rust free, before taking it to my mate Dan for welding.
Now what I would do is, rather than put a bead down it, I'm going to spot it like you saw them doing the sills.
Spotting.
Yeah, because you've got a bit of a gap here and it'll blow. So I'll put a couple of spots down it and then...
Okay, ready?
Okay, go.
Okay.
See, the little hole in the top's got bigger
Because
that's the corner you've ground out.
Yeah.
So the metal's much thinner there. So you're gonna have to...
So what would you have done if you just left it?
Yeah, you could have done. Yeah,
and
a bit
then...
of sealer in it. If you want it sealed, which we can't leave it like that really, but because the metal's so thin, I have to be really careful trying to fill it, and we'll grind it back. Grind back.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. Now that'll be strong enough. You can weld it from the other side as well.
Yeah.
No need.
Well, I think, you know, the fabrication, the prefabrication made it an easy job to weld. With the weld seams ground back, we tacked on angle iron to support the step. This reinforcement is vital, as the step won't be welded to the van, it'll be bolted from the top for wiring access. I wonder whether I want to just get rid of some of that adhesive, because it's just coming out by hand actually. So that seems alright, doesn't it?
It does.
That go on there. That'll be fine. It's perfect.
You happy with that?
Once that is bolted there, that's supported properly.
Lovely.
Told you. Though I didn't tell the camera, so technically it was still a test. Happy with the placement of the angle iron, Dan attached it to the step more permanently. Yeah. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel.
Great, thank you.
Oh, I don't know if you saw it or read the comments.
Back in my workshop, I began marking and drilling the holes to secure the step in place. Using painter's tape here makes this process infinitely easier. It's difficult to draw pencil marks on shiny metal, and scratches can't always be seen from all angles. While doing this, I realised that the cables weren't yet sufficiently covered, so on the fly I traced out an additional piece from the steel offcuts to provide that extra protection. Now, it's worth noting that my welding might not look as clean as Dan's, mainly because I use a gasless MIG while he uses a gas shielded MIG, but it's just the welding method. It absolutely has nothing to do with the fact that, well, Dan may have a knack for this. With the extra piece added, I cut out access for cable routing and applied some CT1 adhesive along the inside seams. Remember those grooves I made earlier? Well, they make the metal a bit thinner and more prone to rusting through. That's why applying the CT1 is important. But here's the pro tip. Smoothing the adhesive with soapy water guarantees a perfectly smooth finish and a strong rust-resistant seal. With fabrication complete, it was time for the last step, painting. I used aerosol cans, starting with a primer to prepare the metal. I used 1K primer by mistake, but it worked out since the step will be inside the van and shielded from the elements. Sometimes you've just got to take your mistakes on the chin and roll with it. It turned out fine, and it's a mistake I won't make next time. Not satisfied with simply choosing a similar colour to my van, I visited Groves Group in Plymouth to get a precise colour match using their machine. Typically you can find the paint code on your chassis, but in my case the van had been professionally resprayed in the past. Like before, I gradually built up the base coats until I achieved a finish that I was happy with. But remember, the real protection comes from the lacquer. It not only adds that glossy shine, but also shields the paint from wear and tear, making it look good and last for the long haul. So here's the final piece, completely finished, fully cured, and ready to go into the van. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I certainly enjoyed making it. And remember to like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one.